YouTube family, what is going on? I had to make a video off of this memorandum that Trump posted today. It, I've never seen anything like this. What it actually implies in regards to Iran is so big. It's going to cripple Iran. It's going to cripple their monetary system, their financial system, their imports and exports. And not only that, it's going to cripple anyone that's helping them do this, which is crazy. The two biggest things, I should say, that I took away from this was, one, it puts the full weight of the United States government behind Iraq and getting rid of Iranian corruption and other Middle East countries as well. It also, it specifically mentions Iraq, so that's why it's a big one. But the other big thing that I've never seen before in my life is it says the United States government, the military, whatever, is going to confiscate, investigate, and find all of these sources of terrorist funds. And anything that they confiscate will be returned back to victims of terror. Do you understand how massive that is? I mean, genuinely huge, heartwarming. Like people who lost loved ones fighting ISIS, right? Are brave men and women who serve overseas and in other countries. And this goes to people of Europe and stuff as well, right? Where they've had these ISIS attacks. They're going to seize their cash, oil, whatever they have. And they're going to return those illegal gains to people who are directly affected from terrorism. Imagine, imagine that you had a loved one that went to the Middle East and was killed by ISIS. And you've been struggling since, right? You didn't get that much benefits. You didn't get a big payout or anything like that. And you've been hurting, not only emotionally, but financially, right? And that is a lot of people around the world, first of all. But all of a sudden, you get a check for $4 million or whatever it ends up being, right? Because you have to realize how much money these terrorist groups have. Billions and billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars funneled away in different accounts, kept in cash. I mean, just even what they're smuggling out of Iraq, what Iran is stealing from Iraq in oil and cash and through different businesses and stuff is billions and billions of dollars monthly. So they go and they confiscate this money and they give it back to people who have suffered at the hands of ISIS or terror groups. Wow. I mean, who else has done that? Literally think about it. What other country, what other president, what other prime minister? No one has ever done this before. Because usually we'll go confiscate that money and keep it for the United States government, right? They'll just keep it in the treasury. They're not giving it back to the people who are actually hurt, to the people who had family members that died. It is... I'm still trying to comprehend all of it, honestly. There's so much that was in this memorandum. And so on X, I made a summary of just the most important parts. And I wanted to make a video really quick, just reading through some of these things. And I think you guys can tell I'm pretty hyped up about it. The reason I'm really hyped up about it is because my understanding, and if you're going to just watch, like most of you guys only watch a little bit of my video on the long ones, I think my 45-minute video people watched, the average time was like 8 minutes. You guys hung in there for 8 minutes out of 37, So I'll try to get the points that I'm really excited about in right now. It gives the United States government, military, FBI, the Treasury, everything that the United States is involved in. Okay, it gives all of them the power to go after any non-government organizations, so NGOs, any business fronts, any political groups, any bank accounts, any banks, any actual businesses that are doing deals with Iran and doing all of this other stuff. It gives full clearance to go after all of them, to link them up as being in the same thing and the same issue as Iran, as ISIS. It's putting them all in the same category, which is just, it's truly incredible. Okay, so let's get right into my post here. Now that I've kind of summed it up, I mean, what's really big about all of this, and I can't stress it enough when it comes to Iraq, is it specifically is it gives them basically the green light to kick Iran out with the backing of the United States government, which we've talked about needs to be done. For them to do any sort of the revaluation or redenomination, right? We can't have them start a whole new currency system and a whole new financial system and go to Forex and become international when you have, from the top down of their government is still corrupt at the core, right? And they're still dealing with corrupt judges and, corrupt politicians, corrupt bankers. We had one of our senators from, I think it was North Carolina, District 2, he had come out the other day and he's been calling out Iran for controlling Iraq. He specifically called out one of the Iraqi Supreme justices over there as being a puppet of the Iranian regime. Well, guess what? Now, because of this, if you're a puppet of the Iranian regime, you're a terrorist. You are now being able to, you're opening yourself up to be investigated, to have all of your stuff confiscated, to being a terrorist, classified as a terrorist. I mean, and on top of that, anyone who does business with you opens themselves up for that. Any bank that banks you opens themselves up to that. Anyone who sells you toilet paper opens themselves up to being in that same category with you. Like I said, I've never seen anything like this before. Especially, I cannot stress enough how big the giving the money back to terror victims is. I mean, that blew my mind. It blew my mind in a good way. It warmed my heart. Like I've never seen a government say, we're going to confiscate money by door kicking terrorist house and stealing back all of their stuff that they've been taking from the people. And then we're actually going to give it back to the people, right? Like, we've never seen that. Think about our entire time in the Middle East. Did we go over there? Did we profit from that? Did we as citizens profit from that? Absolutely not. We lost a bunch of our rights. It was good for the war machine. They made a whole bunch of money off of it, but we certainly didn't get any stipends or dividends off of the war in the Middle East that we had no business being over there, right? Instead, it only enriched the government and the war machine and the people at the top who push all of this, the never-ending wars and the forever wars and stuff. And then this is the first time I've ever seen a government say, we're going to go door kick for you, and then we're going to give that money back to you because you lost someone you loved. And that is worth, it's not, I don't think it's worth any amount of money, honestly. But at least it's them saying it's worth something, right? That sacrifice was worth something. Here, breathe easier. Pay off your house. Send your kids to college. Send your grandkids to college, whatever. Thank you for your service, right? It's just truly, truly incredible. So let's get right into it. I highlighted the most important things I thought I read out of here. So it says the Secretary of Treasury shall immediately impose sanctions or appropriate enforcement remedies on all persons for which the department has evidence of any activity in violation of one or more Iran-related sanctions. So if you're violating any sanctions that are currently in place against Iran, good luck. So my comments are here in bold and capital. So I said this would sweep up a lot of people, basically anyone, just by having contact or helping Iran with a single dollar. Implement a robust and continual sanctions enforcement campaign with respect to Iran that denies the regime and its terror proxies access to revenue. That's a big one. Every country will scramble so they aren't linked to terror proxies, because that is such a vague term. You could label they could have passed by they could have had an ISIS member go into your bank and stole a pen, and you could become a terror proxy because you didn't try to catch them or report them or whatever, and not just that, but specifically relating to revenue, right? So what talks in the world? Money talks. What happens when you shut down everyone's money? What happens when you start coming down after everyone's money and labeling them as terrorists while taking their money? They're not going to get that money back. I mean, they have to literally prove they are not terrorists to get that money back. So it's just a total freeze overall. It's gonna shake the system. Like, people truly don't even understand how massive this truly is. And it says, issue updated guidance to all relevant business sectors, including shipping, insurance, and port operators, about the risks to any person that knowingly violates United States sanctions with respect to Iran or an Iranian terror proxy. Once again, terror proxies, that could be terror proxies in Somalia. It could be terror proxies in Iraq, in Israel, in the United States. It could be anything. This would easily shut down violating countries' trade routes, crippling their revenue. Maintain countermeasures against Iran at the Financial Action Task Force. Evaluate beneficial ownership thresholds to ensure sanctions deny Iran all possible illicit revenue. Okay, to ensure sanctions deny Iran all possible illicit revenue, and evaluate whether financial institutions should adopt a know your customer's customer standard for Iran-related transactions to further prevent sanctions evasions. So I've never heard of this before. A know your customer's customer. That's not a thing. A know your customer is, or a know your client, right? A KYC, all banks in the United States basically make you do that. It's very common practice to have to show ID, show bank statements, or, where you're living, like utility bill or whatever it is. But what this is saying is that if you're doing business with anything that has to do with Iran, you have to provide that information on all of your customers. And so it doesn't just apply to banks and brokerages or anything like that. Like, you have to give all of that information over. If you're selling cotton to Iran, you have to start providing all of this information so they know that you're not selling cotton to directly to ISIS through some other business venture proxy, right? So that's a huge thing too, because I've never seen a KYCC. It's always a KYC, but this is a KYCC. Okay, we'll keep going here. The Secretary of State shall modify or rescind sanctions waivers, particularly those that provide Iran any degree of economic or financial relief, including those related to Iran's Chabahar port project. I hope I said that right. I probably did not, because I don't. I just rolling back any financial help of any sort relating to Iran or business partners of Iran. That's what that means. So any sanctions, not sanctions, but it says sanctions waivers. So rescinding any sanctions waivers, meaning waivers of sanctions, lifting of those sanctions or anything, we're taking all of those back. Nope. Sanctions are now not able to be waived no matter what. And if you do waive them, once again, you've now become a helper of ISIS. You've now become a helper of Iran, and you're liable to have all of your stuff frozen and have the exact same thing happen to you, which is potential sanctions, freezing of all your assets, investigation by the United States government, and you're not doing business with anyone anymore, right? Implement a robust and continual campaign in coordination with the Secretary of the Treasury and other relevant executive departments or agencies to drive Iran's export of oil to zero. To drive Iran's export of oil to zero, including exports of Iranian crude to the People's Republic of China. And I put driving Iran's oil business to zero. how much you want to bet, a lot of that is stolen oil from Iraq, specifically stopping all oil sent to China as well. Double whammy. I mean, that is huge. Driving their oil exports to zero. Think about what Trump is going to be doing in the United States, right? Where he's saying, drill, baby, drill. Well, looks like there's going to be a whole bunch of demand for oil all of a sudden, right? Good thing that Iraq is right there, that just discovered that oil field that has 2 billion barrels in it that they didn't know about, supposedly, that now Iran has no access to, because the United States government is backing Iraq to do whatever they need to do to kick Iran out of every aspect of their country, financial system and oil and export and import businesses, right? And then stopping it going from China too. Now all of a sudden China's got to start playing ball with countries who aren't corrupt and who will actually obey the sanctions and the other stuff that they've got, that China has against them. Whereas Iran's just been doing workarounds this entire time. So this is another big one. Let's keep going. Lead a diplomatic campaign to isolate Iran throughout the world, including within international organizations, including the denial of freedom of movement or safe haven to the IRGC or any terror proxy of Iran, wherever such may operate outside of Iran's borders. And I believe the IRGC is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, right? Or the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, sorry. And so denial of freedom of movement or safe haven, aka we will stop you before you can go anywhere, then we will hunt you down. That's what that means. So it's literally saying it doesn't matter if you're another country, it doesn't matter if you're another organization, it doesn't matter if you're inside of the United States or outside of the United States. You are absolutely screwed if you are allowing Iran to travel through there freely, these terrorist groups to travel in and out freely, and if you're giving them any sort of safe haven. So basically, if you're a country and you know there is ISIS or IRGC strongholds in your country, and you're trying to do business with the United States, you now have to go eliminate all of them. You have to get them out of your country, because we're not going to allow that. We're not going to do business with you. You're not going to get the United States seal of approval unless you go clear out all of these strongholds, right, that they have throughout the entire world. And I mean, they are really throughout the entire world. So this applies to Europe. This applies to the UK. Think about all the immigration and all the stuff going on over there, right? And think about even in the United States, all of the military age fighting men that came over across our southern border. And most of them, no, they weren't Hispanic or Latino. Most of them were Asian and from the Middle East, or from, places in Africa. They said constantly, and if you look it up, they found like 20 different countries every month coming through our southern border. It was not just, and that's besides like South America. It wasn't just them. The majority of it was actually a lot of these other countries. Iran was sending over tons and tons and tons of fighters through our southern border. That's what they were doing. And now, if they're here in strongholds in certain sanctuary cities or anything, you better watch out, because they're coming and kicking doors. So this one is also extremely important. Take immediate steps in coordination with the Secretary of the Treasury and other relevant agencies to ensure that the Iraqi financial system is not utilized by Iran for sanctions evasion or circumvention, and that Gulf countries are not used as sanction evasion transshipment points. This is huge. Here it is, black and white. The exact thing we have been waiting for. Iraq was just given the green light to boot Iran out completely with the backing of the United States government. Once the corruption is purged, I believe we will see more steps / completion of the financial and monetary reform of Iraq, which includes the new currency and the revaluation. This is what we have been waiting for. The United States government just specifically called out the Iraqi financial system. It is no longer a safe haven for Iran. It is no longer a safe haven for corruption. It is no longer a safe haven for terrorist financing and money laundering. Because think of the correspondent banks and everything that Iraq has recently set up, right? Through Chase and all of these other banks. Now, they have to be completely accountable to the United States Treasury and to this correspondent banks who are basically sponsoring all of their financial stuff. So with this specifically, now all of these Iraqi banks have every right to shut down and turn over all documentation on anyone that they know is associated with Iran in their system. And then guess what happens? There's this confiscated funds, right? There's the stuff going back to the Gold Star families that are specifically mentioned in this as well. It's like all of a sudden, all of their money and everything is frozen, right? The Secretary of Commerce shall conduct a robust and continuous export control enforcement campaign to restrict the flow of technology and components used by the regime for military purposes. So this one was bringing the United Nations in to stifle all of the technology and any modern day advancements that like they're trying to get to Iran for military use or for anything really. Not allowed. Not going to happen. If you're caught giving Iran, like the newest tech or selling them anything that's remotely new, technology-wise, that can be used as a weapon, like think of all the illegal arms sales that certain members of our own government have facilitated over the years, right? You're now a terrorist. The Attorney General shall pursue all legal steps to investigate, disrupt, and prosecute financial and logistical networks, operatives, or front groups inside the United States that are sponsored by Iran or an Iranian terror proxy. The key things said here, logistical networks, operatives, or front groups inside the United States. So let's read that again. Logistical networks, operatives, or front groups inside the United States. So that means any sort of communication networks on computers, phones, through telecommunications, any chat groups, anything that is logistically helping them to further their cause or communicate or ship things around the United States or move people around the United States. Any operatives. So, I mean, you think of an operative like that's a foreign agent, right? That's what I think of. An operatives like CIA spook type of stuff. So that's what they're discussing here too. Any operatives, people who are operating in the United States, nope, coming after you too. Or front groups. Front groups, huh? That sure sounds like a lot of these companies we're seeing from USAID that are just getting all of this crazy money from the government, and then all of a sudden it's being laundered back. That encompasses... you could have a cell phone business and you're taking all of that money and it's a front or whatever it is, or you're sending money back through that. You're now going to be investigated. You're going to be targeted. This will apply to any business, NGO, government entity, or person that is connected to Iran in any way. Remember, the KYCC extends to a friend of a friend, similar to how they used the FISA court against Trump. Think mirror. Pursue all legal steps to impound illicit Iranian oil cargoes. Didn't Trump just launch the Sovereign Wealth Fund, right? Which he said it was gonna be there. Money was gonna be put in it, and it was gonna be used for tons of humanitarian purposes and to give back to the people and everything, right? Well, how much you want to bet that oil is going to go into either the profits from it or in some way, shape, or form, that oil is going to go into the Sovereign Wealth Fund because it's confiscated now. All their cargoes, all their oil cargoes, we're going to see our gas prices literally plummet in a good way. They are going to drop so fast, not only because we're going to be drilling like crazy and stepping up our exports, right? But we're also going to be impounding all of these billions and billions and billions of barrels of oil from Iran, which then is going to be redistributed back throughout the United States. It's going to drop our gas prices even more because all of a sudden we're just going to have an overflow of gas, of oil, right? Crude oil everywhere. And that is huge too. I mean, for companies, for businesses, not so great for the oil companies. I am for sure expecting crude oil will probably start to plummet in price just because there's going to be so much of it in the United States, right? I mean, like if we're going to be confiscating all of this oil and doing all of these other things and basically stopping a huge producer of oil with Iran, right? And then Iraq is going to step up and we're going to step up But all the oil we're taking from Iran, we're giving back around the world. I mean, we're gonna have a surplus of it, which is fantastic for us at the gas station. So that's also a huge thing. But this is exactly what the biggest one, to me personally, this is the biggest one. Pursue all available legal steps to identify Iranian governmental assets in the United States and overseas, and help American victims of terrorism, including Gold Star families, collect on federal judgments against Iran. And the key here is to identify Iranian governmental assets in the United States. So that means all spies and overseas, but that means all spies, all bank accounts, all dollar bills, all gold, anything that they have in safety deposit boxes we can find, whatever it is, and help American victims of terrorism, including Gold Star families, collect on federal judgments against Iran. So what's so big about this, for that one specifically, they're talking about, like, you remember the multiple bank accounts that we had, that we froze of Iran's, that had like billions and billions of dollars in it, right? Which Obama and Biden just sent back to them on cash pallets. But we had that money frozen. Those billions of dollars, it literally says they would take that and give it back to American families who suffered at the hands of ISIS and Iran. And that probably just it doesn't stop with ISIS or Iran. I mean, I'm sure that it will spill over to victims of any terror group, right? That means all of the people who have fought in the Middle East against Iran in any way, they're going to get a huge chunk of money. How incredible. I mean, like, genuinely, how incredible is that for them? It almost makes me want to cry, you know? Like, that is just, it's so cool that that's happening. I've never seen a government do that for its people. And it's genuinely, like, it's heartwarming, dude. It really is. I don't even have anyone that was affected by that, but I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine, like, first of all, going through that with your family, you know, and then actually just like having a government check show up one day for millions of dollars saying, I'm sorry, but here you go. It's nuts. That really, truly, truly blows my mind. So the last thing I wanted to discuss here was this. I've talked about the Iranian rial and the investing.com glitches and everything that we've seen, and how Iran had passed a law to remove 4 zeros from their currency, right? And this, I think, was passed in 2020 or something like that. I'll look it up here in a second so you guys can see that they passed it in Parliament to remove the 4 zeros. And then on investing.com, out of nowhere, we started seeing that actually reflect in the price, which I will also show you. What is incredible to me, and it validates all of these price glitches and stuff in my mind, is the Iranian rial on investing.com went from being 2.38, which was reflecting the minus 4 zeros price glitch, but it lined up with the laws that they had passed years and years ago, right? But that have never been implemented anywhere that we know of, but it was passed for a fact in the parliament in Iran. And then so investing.com is the only one that shows that price reflecting with the minus 4 zero rate. And then on November 30th of 2024, all of a sudden the price went to zero on investing.com. 0.00, no volume. The data is showing zero. The technical indicators are showing zero. Everything's showing zero. It literally, the currency was worthless. It went to zero. That was November 30th, 2024. What Trump just did with this memorandum, he literally made the currency worthless. He made their entire financial system, everything that they're doing, all of their money, absolutely worthless because no one can touch it. You cannot do business with it. You can't help unless it is 100% proven legitimate, which almost nothing that Iran is doing or that we do business with Iran in any way, shape, or form is. None of it's legitimate. there's ties to terror money all over the place because it's from the top down, the very top of the government, all the way down to the street level is corrupt, and there's terrorist money flowing in and out through there. It was either stolen from Iraq or stolen from, funneled through China or Russia or whatever it was, or there's profits from stolen oil. It makes their currency worthless. How is it that investing.com twice now has correctly shown prices that nowhere else reflects, but we can literally see on paper is true, right? Nowhere else reflects the -40 rate that is passed as a law for Iran. That was passed. So that was them being correct the first time, right? And now Trump passes this memorandum today, February 6th. So over 2 months later, right? Over 2 full months later, he passes this memorandum, which literally will send Iran's money to zero and their financial system to zero. Once again, investing.com has nailed it because their currency is literally going to be worth zero. Think of World War II, like Hitler type currency issue that they had, where they had to print a whole another currency afterwards because it was completely worthless. It wasn't worth anything because the entire regime had fallen, right? It is going to be the same thing with this. You're going to have this entire regime of Iran either ousted, given up by their own people, invaded by neighboring countries, whatever it is. I think we're going to see some crazy stuff happen, or Iran's going to fully bend their knee and allow the United States to come in, clean up all of those terrorists, all of those people, or demand that they hand them over, and then say, okay, now we'll do business with you. Now we are going to move forward with allowing you to be on the global level playing field, because that's the goal, right? Is the level playing field. And Iran is a hornet's nest in the Middle East, along with one other specific country they're just always stirring up trouble, right? It's just truly everything that is happening right now there's no other option for Iran other than their currency to be absolutely worthless, because no one can touch it or do business with it or hold it or send it overseas or transfer it or buy anything with it or sell any goods and receive it, right? What are the odds that investing.com has nailed this again? Twice on the same currency now. 2 times on the same currency. And so I'll show you guys right now exactly what I'm talking about. All you have to do, look, and if you can't find this on, if you go on investing.com, watch, I'll try to search IRR, which is the Iranian rial. It only shows this pairing, which is the USD and IRR. And even if you hit show all, it only shows this pairing, which is the USD IRR, right? Which when you look at all of this here, nothing funky about this. But watch this. If you Google IRR USD, you'll pull up this backdoor to that website, okay, to investing.com. And then here it is, IRR/USD, $0. 0.0000, 0% change. There's no volume. Look, real time as of oh, this is, so it's backwards. It's December, I think, 2nd, which makes sense when you go and look at the historical data. You click this historical data tab here. Look, November 30th is when it started, $0. December 1st is the only other time. And look at this. You can even see here the change, -100%. It literally says it right there, -100%. It lost all of its value overnight. And so you have the 26th, 27th, 28th, right? And here's that price I was talking to you about, $2.38, which is not the price if you look anywhere else for it. And then on the overview, if you come here and look, you have to go to the daily chart. The daily chart shows it right here too, $2.38. And I'll show you this too, just to further validate everything. We're gonna go all the way back to January 1st, 2021. We're gonna apply that. This won't even go back that far. But we'll scroll all the way down. Look, December 14th, 2022, 2.38. Someone has purposely manipulated this data and gone back and retroactively changed all of the data somehow to reflect this. Okay, change right here. Look, minus 99%. So it's to get this many data points to show the same incorrect data. It has to be intentional. There's no way that you have all of these. Look at every single, I'm just scrolling up here all the way through 2022, through 2023. Here's 2024 starting. All of these show, and look, even the prices and everything, the technical indicator, the day's range, everything shows this price. And then we go all the way up. November 30th and December 1st, $0. It makes quite literally no sense. And you can even see it here too, right? It shows $0 on the chart. If we go up here on this spike, this was the same days. It was the last time that it was $2.38, and the low was $0, right? And then we dropped down to 0. Super weird. That doesn't make any sense. But what are the odds that investing.com has nailed this twice now? I'll show you this too. Iran votes on removing 4 zeros. You guys can go do this all on your own as well. But look, Iran approves plan to cut 4 zeros from falling currency. This is in May 4th of 2020. Okay. Iran to cut 4 zeros from currency to fight hyperinflation. Approves slashing 4 zeros from currency from Tehran Times. Like May 4th, 2020. Lawmakers to discuss removing 4 zeros from Iranian currency. You can go look all this up. And this is why I always search things and pull things up for you guys while we're here. I always give you the tools that you need to be able to validate exactly what I'm saying, right? Which a lot of other people don't. I want you to see exactly how I research it, what I look up, so you can go and type it in and verify for yourself that what I'm saying is true. And you can see with your own eyes, right? Instead of it just being me telling you that's what it is. If this is correct, if this price glitch is correct, right? And this is actually the $0 and then the $2.38. We just saw that in May of 2020, they voted to remove the 4 zeros. And then all of a sudden, investing.com is reflecting that since then, but nowhere else in the world does. But they're getting the correct data technically. They were getting the correct data based on the law that was passed to remove those 4 zeros. Going from as far back as we went was December 14th, 2022. It doesn't let you go back farther than that. And since that day, it was reflecting the correct lawful price of their currency, which was missing the 4 zeros. Okay. And then all of a sudden it went to 0. And I remember when this happened, I posted about it on my X and stuff. I was like blown away. I was like, what the heck? But because I had brought this up in other videos as well, right? And in one of my videos, proof of data manipulations, I had brought this up. So their currency all of a sudden goes to 0, shows 0 for those 2 days, and then stops updating in real time, stops having volume, stops having anything for this currency pair. Okay. And then today, February 6th, we have them come out with laws that literally make Iran's financial system and dollar completely worthless. It makes the real completely worthless. We literally have 2 verifications that they're getting correct data from somewhere. Something is feeding them correct data, and I've done a deep dive on investing.com before. They are run by really big people. They're one of the biggest companies. So is it really a coincidence? You know, that means that the price glitches on VND and IDR and also the HUF are correct. And the only price glitch we've ever seen on the IQD was up to 0.076. And that was on Google only. It has never shown on investing.com. But on investing.com, VND/USD, IDR/USD, HUF/USD. Go look them up. All of them have price glitches, which means that if the Iranian real is accurate and they're getting correct data, then that means that those price glitches on those other ones are correct as well, which is huge. because VND was minus 40 rate, IDR was minus 30 rate, and then the HUF was a minus 20 rate. So pretty incredible stuff, guys. Thank you so much if you hung in here this entire time. I really, really appreciate you. I know it was a long one, but this is what happens when I'm really excited about something. I just keep talking and talking. My brain does not shut off. It just goes. And a lot of times when I'm having these conversations with you guys on X and everything, and we're going back and forth, this is this is how I'm thinking in my brain. This is exactly what this is how I process information. This is how I think things. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was very descriptive. I hope it really laid out how important and how monumental all of this stuff is, because it truly is something I've never seen before. It is something that is going to change Iraq fundamentally, allowing them to do all of these financial reforms and everything that they haven't been able to, because they've had these greedy, corrupt fingers controlling all of them from behind. Not anymore. And that also means that any politicians, anything in the United States or abroad, anywhere, if you're in the pocket of Iran, the United States government is coming for you. And we fully support that. Thank you guys so much. I love you all very much. I wish you all good fortune in life. I hope your crypto bags stay full. And keep the hate in your heart, not in my comments, right? Let's try to have peaceful, respectful discourse. I really do try to answer all of your guys' questions and go back and forth with you. And that even includes all the little trolls that are out there that like to argue with me about stuff they don't know about. And then there's sometimes that people teach me stuff too. I love it, but there's ways to do it respectfully and to get your point across while educating someone. You don't need to be condescending, and I try to never be with people as well, because we're all learning, right? There's so much here that is new to me. I mean, literally this entire memorandum was like all new stuff to me that I hadn't seen done before to this extent. So we're all learning, we're all growing. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and let's hope we see some really, really big things happening in the next 30 to 60 days before the State of the Union, all right? Take it easy.